Hey, Aaron Adams here with Infinity Investing. As you can see on the screen, we're going to be going over this is my real estate mistakes series, specifically the beginner series, where I try to take 10 minutes and go through three common mistakes that beginners make. Every one of these are mistakes that I made. They're mistakes that I see my partners make. They're mistakes that I see my students make as they get into real estate investing. And so we're trying to keep them in small bites for you, but also bring a lot of value in terms of the content that we're presenting. One of the things that I always say is that when you are investing and starting a business, when you lose money, you pay tuition. And there's always tuition that has to be paid for your education. So it's our hope that a series like this allows you to save some tuition and at least put some of these ideas in your brain so that as you confront them, you're able to avoid some of the same mistakes and expensive penalties that you'll pay from disregarding some of these ideas and taking what may seem like a shortcut initially but isn't. Now, if you haven't heard me before, this is the first video of three that we're going to do on beginner mistakes, and then we're going to do three videos on intermediate mistakes and then advanced mistakes. So the idea is that you potentially can evolve through these. But I started my investing journey back in 2000 when I bought a duplex in Southern California. I've literally purchased over 10,000 properties all across the country since then. I've done everything from apartment complexes, new construction, single family homes, Airbnbs, mobile home parks, commercial, land development, storage units, you name it. If there's a way to make money in real estate, I've tried it. And so I'm bringing a lot of experience to bear here. I currently have 5 operations across the country, 400 people that are buying, fixing up, renting, managing, selling properties for me and with me as partners. We're managing $250 million worth of property just as rentals right now. So there's a lot that goes behind this information that I put together for you. And so I'm excited to share it with you, and hopefully you'll find it as valuable as I do, having paid some heavy tuition for some of these. So let me jump right into the first set of common mistakes here that we're going to talk about today. The first one is what I call a high value, low value activity focus. And what I might do here is make it so I can draw a little bit on the slide here. But what I find is that when you go into business for yourself, there's all these things that you have to do. Like you have to get business cards. Maybe you have to work on a website. You got to think of a logo. And those all have to be done when you're doing business. What I find the mistake that people make is that they don't classify their work and divide it by high value and low value activity. Now, a high value activity is something that actually makes you money. So if you're doing real estate, going out and finding deals is a high value activity, whereas working on your business cards is a low value activity. And if I look back at the last 21 years and say, what are the factors that have helped me really grow my business quickly, is I try to spend 85% of my day on high value activities. And only 15% of my day on those. Now you have to do the low value activities. You got to pay bills. You have to turn utilities on and off. There's things that you still have to do. But as you divide your time up every day, what you don't want to find is that, and I see this a lot with beginning investors, is they sit down at their computer in the morning and they start doing the easy things. Oh, well, I got to turn the power on, and then I got to turn the gas on, and I have to return a phone call, and I have to go down to the city, and by the time they knock now it's lunchtime, and you never get to making money. And you can't let a day pass where you're not making money. And whatever the driver is that makes you money, you have to wake up every day and say, first of all, are there any fires that I have to put out under that high value activity umbrella? I'm going to put those fires out first. And then what do I have to do to keep growing my business? What do I need to work on today that will make me money 4 months from now? What do I need to be working on? What seeds do I need to be planting that'll make me money a year from now? And that mindset has to set your schedule. Don't let your schedule set itself. Just because you got a text doesn't mean that you have to return it. Just because somebody left you a voicemail doesn't mean that you have to make that phone call back. You need to be the one who decides how your time is allocated. And yeah, there will be days where it flip-flops and you spend 85% of your day on low-value activities. But don't let that happen in your week. Make sure that your week was 85% high-value activities that make you money. And if you'll commit to deliberately thinking about this as you set your day, as you set your hour, as you set then your week and your month, you will find it that your business is moving forward in ways that you didn't ever think were possible. And when people lose their way and they get stuck and they're still making the same amount of money, one of the mistakes that I can usually point to is say, you're still, everybody's heard the expression working in your business versus working on your business. And people like to say, I don't like working in my business as an employee. I want to work on my business to grow my business. This is how you do that. You focus on high value activities. Now, this isn't my concept. Companies like Microsoft have adopted this for their employees, but it's a powerful concept, and it's one that maybe you're coming from a job environment and you've never thought about that because you always had a boss that told you how you had to spend your day. So this is the first time you've really thought about setting a schedule for yourself. Think about this, incorporate this. It's one of the ways that I've been able to 10x my efforts over the last 21 years. Now, the second area that I wanted to highlight is who your first employee should be. And it kind of feeds back to the first principle of high value, low value activities, because people usually think you get to a point where you have a business and you're making money and things are going well. And a lot of people get stuck right there. They get stuck as a one-man operation because they think, God, that's too much hassle. I don't want to have to manage employees. And I've met very few billionaires that became billionaires, or I've met very few 100 millionaires that became that way by themselves without employees. And so you want to be thinking of when should I hire my first employee? Who should that be? And a lot of people end up hiring like a receptionist. I need somebody to take my calls, or they hire a personal assistant. I need somebody to take care of the stuff around that. And those things are important. I would almost recommend that you hire a Mary Maids to clean your house. You hire a landscaping company. Think of them as employees, okay? But when you actually hire your first formal employee, I would recommend that you hire a bookkeeper. Now, the good thing about bookkeeping is you can hire temp bookkeeping labor. So imagine going to a temp agency in your town and hiring somebody for 5 hours a month to come in and do your books. And then, as you get busier and busier, that person, you can literally pay a commission to the temp agency and hire that person in-house. That's something that we've done over the years very successfully. Gives you a chance to kind of test drive that person and see if they're a good fit for you and for your business. If you are a CPA or a bookkeeper by trade, you still need to hire one because it's a low value activity for you in your business. And so that's where it kind of goes hand in hand. And so I usually advise people that your first little employees are going to be your landscapers, your housekeepers, maybe somebody to cook meals for you. Those are your 1099s that you bring in first as you start offloading those daily lifestyle low value activities. If you're making over $150,000 a year from your business and you are still cutting the lawn, low value trap. It's a mistake. Okay. But then when you get to your first W-2 employee, the payroll type employee, I want you to think about hiring a bookkeeper. The last big mistake that I want to cover today in our beginning series, and over the next two series, we're going to cover a lot of other really great stuff that we have here, but is that people don't set up their business correctly when they get going. And they think, it's too much of a hassle. Obviously here at Infinity, we spend a lot of time breaking down the asset protection standpoint of things. But if you are doing real estate, especially if you're doing flips or if you're wholesaling and you're making all this money that you don't have, that you're paying capital gains on short-term capital gains, you're going to want a structure. And for most of you, that's LLCs, either an S Corp, a C Corp, and maybe both. You're going to want to set that structure up. Initially, the biggest benefit will be from a tax standpoint. It will allow you to funnel through a lot of those profits that you're making as business expenses and create deductions out of them. And the mistake that I made and the mistake that I see a lot of investors make is they don't set up their structure from the start, and they don't start running their money through it correctly. So all of these profits that have been in their personal account getting taxed at the maximum tax rate. And that is not how rich people flow their money. They flow it through their business accounts. And so instead of paying for your car payment out of your personal account, it becomes an expense of the business that the business pays for. And so now you're paying for that lease or that car payment with pre-tax dollars, not from your personal account after you've paid 30-40% tax rate. And so get your structure set up, learn what an LLC is and how to use it, set one up, learn why you may need an S Corp or a C Corp and get those set up. And do that right from the beginning. Like once you've made $5,000 and you've proven that this isn't going to be a hobby, this is going to be a business, then you need to spend the next few $1,000s to get that structure set up, and you'll make it back 10 times over because you'll be able to get so many more write-offs by having the correct structure. So that's all I have today for our beginner common mistakes series. You're going to want to join me for the next one, where I'm going to be digging into 3 more topics, and we're excited about this. We think there's going to be a lot of value. Hopefully this 10 minutes has been valuable for you, and I look forward to having you join us.